Hello and welcome to High Vibe Astrology. This is Jennifer, and I'm finally doing the video that I've been promising to do on Pluto and Sedna and the trine that began roughly around February of 2017 and will last, although it'll be a weaker trine with a wider orb, it will still be in effect roughly until about February of 2030. So these two planetary bodies are going to be in a harmonious relationship with each other, supporting our healing of the collective shadow, which is a very big job because it has become such a monstrosity that we are seeing playing out in the collective. And if you've tuned into my channel, you will have heard me say many times that I assign Mars, Pluto, and Sedna as the rulers of Scorpio. I assign Mars to the Scorpion, the lowest vibe or expression of Scorpio, Pluto to the Phoenix, which represents that perpetual death and rebirth loop, the death of the ego and the birth or the rebirth of the soul as it rises out of the ashes of what the ego was attached to. On the subject of rebirth, I want to mention something that I saw recently on a YouTube influencer's channel called After School, spelled Skool. The video title was called Solving the Inner Mystery, and he quoted Manly P. Hall as saying that to be born again means to not make the same mistakes again. And this is what I feel really encompasses this lesson that both Pluto and Sedna are revealing to us as one human family, to not make the same mistakes again. And as we look back on history and discover where we have given our power away and allowed this shadow to be projected into our external world, we have got to discover those places within us that are still in need of healing. So Pluto is about that rebirth process, the death of the ego and what the ego has been attached to, so that we can arrive at the place of the eagle where Sedna is showing us how to tap into our own immortal, primordial essence, the life force energy that aligns us with divine creator, the source of all life. So what all of these have in common is the Scorpio energy. The bullet points with Scorpio are sexuality that is based upon trust and authenticity and the emotional bond between two people. This is, of course, one of the high vibe expressions of Scorpio. Kundalini life force energy, which transforms lower instincts from the base of the spine to the pineal gland, the third eye, which unifies the solar and lunar energies or the divine masculine and feminine energies into a single eye, which when united fills the whole body with light. And this is what does align the Kundalini solar and lunar forces to reunite with the divine and sacred. So we can see how this energy has been undermined in the collective human shadow by turning sexuality into a commodity that is traded on the market. And literally, because Scorpio rules the underground, we are talking about the black market and how sexuality has been traded, humans being sold into slavery, children being sold into human trafficking and sexual enslavement. This is one of the most depraved and perverted expressions of abuse and atrocities against human life that absolutely must be healed before we can truly evolve. Scorpio is the sign of extremes, and it can embody what personifies evil, however you define evil. And it can also be the other extreme of the purest of human hearts with deep compassion for all life. So it literally encompasses the best and the worst of humankind. And what we are seeing come to light in the collective expression of this human shadow is the most vile and depraved attitude toward life force energy. This could even be just the tip of the iceberg as more truth gets revealed, which could quite literally make the Holocaust after World War II look like child's play. But Rather than go into all of that, I'm going to let the astrology speak for itself, because astrology tells its own story. And when we look at Pluto's discovery chart, in comparison and contrast to Sedna's, we can see a lot of common themes, a lot of commonalities, especially with regard to healing the human shadow. So I view Pluto as the alchemical fire and Earth and humanity's baptism by fire, and Sedna as primordial water and Earth and humanity's baptism by water. We have to come back into right relationship with human emotion. We have to come back into right relationship with a divine feminine expression of intuition, imagination, proper and healthy emotional expression, and proper and healthy spiritual sovereignty. And this is why Sedna has returned, I feel. This is the primary lesson. And we have to balance fire and water. In Chinese medicine, the kidneys represent this energy and the ancestral essence that we inherit. And it's like the steam engine that provides the energy and the driving force that transfers energy from one organ system to another. Without the kidneys, we cannot survive. Another very relevant association having to do with the kidneys is that kidneys are associated with the water element in Chinese medicine, and the emotion associated with this organ is fear. Fear is the most powerful way to control another human being, and that is why trauma, repeated trauma and abuse and control is the mechanism by which those acting out the human shadow, that is the mechanism they use to control other humans. And that is why it's so important for us as individuals to look fear in the face wherever fear exists in our life and say, you no longer have power and control over me. I align with divine love, divine creator. And in that essence and in that energy, there is no fear. So let's look at the similarities between these two planets. First of all, Pluto was discovered in 1930. Sedna was discovered in 2003. That's a 73-year difference between these two planetary bodies being discovered. However, they still have some really important things in common. Both discovery charts have Leo rising, which means that the chart ruler is the sun, and the sun's position is going to give us a lot of information about what we need to consciously integrate in terms of these planets, Pluto and Sedna, as they relate to healing the shadow. We also have a Taurus North Node in both of these charts. Not only is there a Taurus North Node in both of these charts, they both happen to occupy the 10th house, a very visible house, and it's a house that has to do with our destiny. So to have the North Node destiny point in the house that relates to our destiny is quite auspicious, to say the least. Which means, of course, that there's a Scorpio South Node. And those South Nodes are in the 4th house. 4th house has to do with home, family, ancestral roots, the roots that go so very deep. That is the karmic reckoning we are having to face and heal. But what I find really fascinating is that both the luminaries are involved in a conjunction with that Scorpio South Node. In the case of Pluto's chart, we have the moon conjunct the Scorpio South Node. In Sedna's chart, the sun is conjunct the South Node. In both charts as well, we have Chiron making an opposition to the moon. This signifies deep healing that is required for our emotions and our ancestral patterns, our family history, the ancient roots that go so very deep. This is what we need to heal. Also, in both of these charts, we have Jupiter making a tight aspect to Mars. In Pluto's case, Jupiter is making a trine to Mars. In Sedna's case, we have Jupiter making an opposition to Mars. So it's kind of blowing up and expanding on that yang energy of the low vibe being aggression and the high vibe being assertive independence. We also have the rulers of Pisces, Jupiter the ancient ruler and Neptune the modern ruler. Both of these rulers are found in the second house and occupying the sign of Virgo, opposite Pisces, opposite the actual sign that this planet rules. So in the case of Pluto, we have the modern ruler Neptune in the sign of Virgo in the second house. In Sedna's chart, we have the ancient ruler of Pisces, Jupiter, in the sign of Virgo in the second house. And remember that the second house is echoing the Taurus energy. And in both of these charts, we have a Taurus north node. So there is something around our material resources, personal resources, self-worth, self-esteem, and our relationship to the earth, Taurus, that must be addressed and healed. Another similarity is that we have Saturn making a strong connection to the sixth house. In Pluto's discovery chart, Saturn is actually occupying the sixth house. In Sedna's chart, Saturn is making a tight opposition to Chiron, which sits in the sixth house. The sixth house itself is about healing, health, well-being, and our daily affairs. It's also about unequal partnering, like master adept, guru adept, or teacher student, doctor patient, etc. Wherever there is an uneven perspective on the interaction between two people. And this is the house of service as well, but we need to look at what it means to have Saturn connected to this sixth house placement. Last but not least, we have Sedna in a prominent position in close to the midheaven in both of these charts. In Pluto's discovery chart, Sedna is in the ninth house, but it is making a conjunction to the midheaven. In Sedna's chart, Sedna is actually conjunct the north node in the 10th house, so both are prominently placed in a visible house. So this placement on the midheaven is about destiny, and it feels like Sedna is literally calling us to reach our destiny. With Sedna conjunct the north node in Sedna's chart, it is about developing a new relationship with abundance and peace and harmony, which is what Taurus represents, and living in harmony with the planet. And again, I do feel that Sedna's energy is about stewardship. It's not about owning and possessing. It's about holding all life sacred. In the ninth house, in Pluto's case, it's about really examining our belief systems and being able to view life from the soul's vantage point to see what is the seed kernel that unites all religions, all belief systems. And so this ninth house placement, even with Sedna in the sign of Aries, to me, this epitomizes spiritual sovereignty while simultaneously respecting and being able to see the common denominator among all beliefs and religions. So this part 1 video is really just to kind of give the overall picture of the similarities between Pluto and Sedna in each one of their charts. And in part 2, I will go into more in-depth analysis on these and maybe a few other hand-picked aspects. It depends on what comes up and what I find relevant and interesting. But I hope you enjoyed this video. Either in part 2 or part 3, I do hope to have some frequencies for you to listen to and meditate upon. But thank you for joining me in this video, and I will be back soon with part 2. Bye for now.